we know it's a relatively dangerous job. TV has to portray it probably inaccurately as a lot more dangerous than it is. But officers do get shot. Officers do get hurt. How dangerous is the job to be out there on an everyday basis policing?
I would say that I think there's two ways to look at it. I think there's the physical danger. I've been on the job 31 years. I spent 25 years in detectives and hundreds of drug raids and all those things and crashing doors and having fun. And sometimes afterwards, and it was usually afterwards that you think about it, when you find the guns or the suspect says, you know, I would have done this if I could have gotten closer to it. In 1997, I was involved in a bank robbery shootout, and it wasn't until afterwards that you say, boy, that really could have ended badly. The other side to look at, I think, is something that's a little more hidden, but I think it's the physical deterioration of a police officer, physical and emotional. Dr. Kevin Gilmartin, who's done a lot of police training, talks about something called hypervigilance, when you're always on. And when you're on and the adrenaline's up, and that's not something that you bring back down easily. You could go from just a routine night to a baby choking, to more routine, to a fatal motor vehicle accident. It's that up and down roller coaster. I think that's why police suicide is 3 times higher than the rate for average Americans. So I look at it both ways.
Let me ask you about that. There's some that say that at least not the suicide rate, obviously, that's would be attributed to the officer's own hand often. But with respect to some of the fatalities that happen in the line of duty, it's because they don't operate according to the book or their prior training. They make a mistake. I mean, if you make a mistake, it can be the end of the road for you in your line of business.
It's cutting corners. There's no other way to put it on a lot of them. I mean, granted, I mean the ambush attacks in recent years, the increase in those, that I can't speak to that because that just seems to be a phenomenon now that's increasing. But as a whole, a lot of the officer fatality on the job deaths have to do with the fact that there's a corner cut somewhere. There is, and I understand what Paul's saying about the drug raids because, you know, as recently as a few months ago, we were on one, and I took a step back and I said, I don't like the way that this thing's going. Time out, and you know, trying to get an entire task force to shift the way that they're doing things on the fly, and you have to be constantly vigilant. Mm-hmm. And again, it comes with a cost. It really does. Is that, you know, a lot of the speakers that we hear from, as far as our academies go, they use the phrase that you know, a cop cooks in their own juices, because of the constant stress that's on them and the fact that they're constantly looking around and what's in that. And you know, you go to a restaurant and, you know, where do we sit in the restaurant? You know, you sit exactly in the back with your back against the wall. Why? Because it's just this. Otherwise, if you sit without your back against the wall where you can see everything, you have this constant
turning around.
It's like, who just walked in the door? Who's here? You know, what's going on? And it's the mentality that you have to have. It's just a survival. It's necessary.
And it's hard to turn it off. This weekend, my wife and I went to New York, and at one point I was watching.
That's not the place to turn it off.
My wife said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm watching that guy." She said, "Why?" I said, "He's going to shoplift." And what do you mean? I said, "He's going to steal something in a minute." And pretty soon, she said, "How'd you know?" I said, "It just comes with what, and you can't turn it off." And we watch him steal something out of the store and then run out the door. It's just, you know, you can't turn it off.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.